In this video, I share with you this 3D printed terrain that I created for Warmaster Evolution. But before we get into today's video, just want to give a quick shout out to all of my lovely Patreon supporters. You guys are so awesome and your support makes this channel what it is. And I want to share with you this past month's GGGGs. Each month, Bob the Beholder picks some of my Patreon supporters to receive gratitude gifts. And for this past month of February of 2025, Cliff T is receiving my Kickstarter copy of Cthulhu Death May Die. Carmelo Q is receiving a pledge for the Stage Top 2 Kickstarter. Dan P and Robert H are each receiving a pledge for the Curse of the Citadel Great Hall. Demodicus is receiving a pledge for the Grid City Gothic STL files. And Brian V is receiving $100 to go towards either the Terminus Frontier or the Star Trek Ascendancy campaigns. If you want to get in on this month's gratitude gifts, go ahead and use the link below to go to my Patreon page, where it only takes $1 to receive a chance to be picked by Bob for one of this month's gratitude gifts. We'll be populating that list as the month goes along. So if you haven't watched my recent video where I talk about how I was getting into 10mm wargaming, go ahead and check out this video as I show you all of these little miniatures and how I chose Forest Dragon miniatures to create my orc army. And I managed to paint up all of the miniatures that I printed out with the exception of some chariots that I need to finish up, and then I'll have my full army ready to play. In the meantime, I also made this 3D hex board that is used for a game that one of my friends is creating called Warmaster Evolution, not Warmaster Revolution. That is based off of Games Workshop's Warmaster that came out a number of years ago and was discontinued. And fans have created and updated the rule set to what's called Warmaster Revolution. But like most GW games, the rules are overly complicated. And my friend Benjamin wanted to create a game that actually combined the simplicity of Battlemaster, which is a Hasbro title, came out a number of years ago. So many people really love that game because you actually had miniatures moving around on a hex map, and combined those simplified rules with some of the dynamics with Warmaster. So it is a Warmaster, Battlemaster kind of combo. And what I like about it is that the rule set is way more simplified and faster to play. And you don't need as many stands of miniatures in order to play. And in fact, you only need about 15 stands to be able to play this game. In the base rules, you just need one stand per unit, although we are thinking about more advanced rules where you can combine multiple units to strengthen them up. But at least right now, as we're testing out the rules, you really only need 15 stands to fit on this board, as well as the dimensions of this board here. And these are 3-inch hexes from tip to tip, and all of the terrain files that you see here, the hex files, is available for free on printable. So go ahead and use the link below if you are interested in printing out this terrain. But these buildings are from printable scenery, which I shrunk down to 50%. And then all of these trees also you need to purchase because I found these on My Mini Factory. They're a little bit expensive at $16 for these files. So you can probably use your favorite tree STLs and just shrink them down to size. But I did like the variety that was found in this tree pack. I did print everything at 0.2mm height on an FDM printer. Yes, you can use a resin printer, but that's going to cost a lot in terms of resin. These tiles print out relatively quickly and they are at different sizes. So I just pack this up in a little container, take it to my local friendly game store in order to set up and play. They don't clip together. I had the idea of using open lock in order for them to clip, but I found that they don't really move around that much. So it isn't really necessary for them to clip. Just the weight of them keeps the board together, even if you bump the table. And then also you have these hills, these smaller pieces that you can build height, because there's some advantages that you can have if you are on height. But overall, I'm super happy with how this came out. Benjamin and I have looked into just printing out a mat that has the hex, and then you can just use these for hills and the 3D printed terrain. So that's a simpler option as well. We're working with Mats by Mars in order to get those created, and they are open to making that available to the public if other people wanted to get into this game. Now, talking about this game, we are still playtesting it, but Benjamin has the plans of making it available for free. And if you are interested in getting in on the playtesting and having access to the alpha rules, all you need to do is become a Patreon supporter, and Benjamin will be willing to send you a copy or a link to the rule set so that you can begin trying it out as well. We would really love any feedback that you might have as we're trying to iron out some of the rules. But I can tell you right now, I've played the game a couple of times and it is super quick, really fun, and I just love the way that it doesn't take, 5 hours to play a game. We pretty much were able to play a game where it was just eliminating the other army as the goal in less than 2 hours. So super quick and really fun, but has a lot of tactical depth. So again, if you're interested, become a Patreon supporter, minimum of $1 in order to join if you want access to those alpha rules. Relatively quick video. I do have a painting tutorial, so go ahead and stick around if you are interested in seeing how I painted up this set just using craft paint. Again, I have links to everything that I have 3D printed here. The tiles are for free, but you do have to pay. Use my affiliate links from Printable Scenery if you wanted to grab some of these buildings, but any 28mm building is fine. You can just shrink it down to 50% and that will work here. Make sure though to simplify your models, because when you shrink it down, it doesn't need as much detail. I also noticed that you have to simplify the trees too in order to get them to print correctly. I did use supports, tree supports on the trees on my Bamboo Labs A1 in order to print them out. Otherwise, the buildings and the rest of the tiles don't need any supports. Go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe, as eventually, once we nail down the rules and it is out of alpha version, we will be doing a how to play tutorial. So make sure to subscribe if you're interested in seeing more videos in the future. Otherwise, happy printing, happy gaming. We'll see you next time. All right, first thing is that I spray primed everything with this Krylon Camouflage Brown. And I like this color because it is so dark. And then after spray painting it brown, I went ahead and did all of the tops with this Satin Hunt Club Green. Again, just a dark green. The reason why I don't use a camouflage version of green is that it's very olive and super dark. It's too dark. So I just like the shade of green that gets in here. And I intentionally spray paint it a little bit splotchy. You don't want it to be uniform. And try to keep the paint off of the edges. But as you can see here, I got some overspray anyway. That doesn't matter too much. I'm going to go ahead and grab some Americana Forest Green. It's just a somewhat darker green. And just paint some of the parts like this. You can be splotchy, doesn't have to be even or uniform. Like that. Here's some Festive Green, which is a lighter green. The same way I'm being splotchy. Something like that. Alright, I'm grabbing some Celery Green, which is a really light olive. And I'm grabbing some of it, mixing it with this green, just to create a little bit of a lighter highlight, because these are still pretty dark. And I'm just going to very carefully dry brush a couple of sections, especially the parts that have a lot of texture to it, just to lighten it up just a little bit. Again, the trick is just to make it a little bit randomized so that there isn't a uniform pattern to everything. So this just helps. Yeah, something like that. Alright, so with some of the trees I'm going to go ahead and do festive green, the lighter green. So I'm going to mix it up with different kinds of greens on these trees, but we'll do a few of them with this color. In this first coat, I'm going to try to get as much coverage as possible, although not at 100%, because we're going to go ahead and do a dry brush with a lighter color over this. So I know that this is a similar color to the grass, and so I printed out 3 of each, so 3 of the entire set, and I'll just do a third of these in this color, and then 2/3 of all the trees in the alternative color. That way it doesn't blend too much into the ground colors. I'm grabbing some of this citrus, but honestly you can just add white to the green and it would be just the same. And then you're just going to dry brush the high parts. I didn't even wait for all the paint to dry on this piece before putting on the second coat. And that's pretty much it for the leaves. I'm going to go back to the forest green, the really dark green for some of them. And here I don't care if the dark green from the spray primer is showing through, because I'm just doing one coat of this. I'm not doing a highlight actually. So this is fine. Just as a comparison, this is what it looks like. So the reason why this will be the dark version, and when they're next to each other it just provides some variety. Here I'm grabbing avocado, which is more of an olive green, a dark olive green. So now I'm going to grab the celery again and mix it with the avocado just a little bit, just to create a highlight color. So see how when they're clustered together like this, just having the variety of different colors makes it look cool. So even though this by itself doesn't look great because it's just one color and I didn't highlight, when you stick it together like this and they're clustered together, then overall it makes it look good. Now I'm grabbing some milk chocolate to do the tree trunks.
We are doing dinner tonight, but it's not until 6:30.
So for the buildings, I am going to go ahead and grab some fawn or any beige color. I need to lighten it up because it's not quite light enough, and so I'm just going to mix some white into it. Next I'm grabbing zinc and neutral gray. It's dark gray and a medium gray. And I'm going to do all the stone with these colors.
Years since I started looking at these data and these situations and going through the evidence, James Scott is innocent.
Where we're standing right now, that's it right there. That's where the levee broke. That's correct. Let's go take a look at it.
When these levees that were overcome for
Now I have my burnt umber. This is apple barrel, super cheap, like 50 cents from Walmart for apple barrel. I like this color because it's really dark. And I haven't found a comparably dark brown in the other brands. For some reason Americana has a dark brown, but just for some strange reason the coverage is terrible on it, so I just use this cheap version of Apple Barrel. And what I'm doing is I'm going back and going over the brown. And then because this Apple Barrel brown is lighter than the base coat, I'll also go over some of the brown beams just to lighten it up a little bit from the dark undercoat. For the roofs, I'm going to grab some Georgia clay, but you can also grab a blue if you want, or green, whatever color. I like the reds because it is going to contrast against the green fields. And I'm basically just dry brushing onto these slates. I want to retain the shading of the dark brown underneath, so I'm careful not to load up my brush too much, but enough to be able to put a nice layer down. And because of how dark the undercoating is, I usually do go over it a second time just to brighten it up just a little bit more, being careful not to get any of the other parts of the building that I painted before. Here's the ruined building. And then another one, put a yellow on top of there.